Wife files for divorce, husband splits house in two. Some men are simply captives to their desires. Some women find it endearing, a man that surprised them often is a plus in any woman's eyes. They want a man who is the right balance of charming and sweet, but not too much. If a man crosses the line and becomes simply too much, well, the results can be disastrous. What Catherine saw in Chris was and may forever be a mystery. What was certain, however, was that Chris had a great sense of humor. Everywhere he went, he made people laugh. He enjoyed making himself laugh even more. He frequently played practical jokes on his co-workers and friends. They were getting quite fed up with his behavior and hoped that Chris would one day encounter somebody who did not like his jokes all that much. However, Chris rarely ever got caught. A big reason for this was because most people enjoyed his jokes, even if they were cruel and nasty. Or maybe it was because he was so forthright about his wit that no one dared to question the quality of his jokes. However, the day would come where Chris's jokes undoubtedly cross a line. And he'd pay a hefty price for it. As Marilyn Monroe once said, if a man has the ability to make a woman laugh, he can get her to do anything. In certain situations, the anything can also include marriage. So it's not unreasonable to believe Catherine was drawn to Chris because of his sense of humor. Was that, however, the real reason she married him? She definitely was not after his money, as everyone was aware that their marital regime included the separation of estates and assets. Given how soon after the wedding their divorce occurred, as well as the circumstances surrounding it, she may have regretted it later. If things had turned out differently, she would have received something positive out of an otherwise dreadful experience. However, up until their wedding day, their relationship was most likely filled with good humor and plenty of pleasant experiences. However, there must have been something on her mind in the days leading up to their wedding. Otherwise, she would not have divorced her husband so soon after getting married. At the core, Catherine was very unsure of herself. Which might explain her attraction to Chris, a very self-assured man who could care less about others' opinions of him. She grew up constantly doubting herself, and seeing someone who did the opposite of that made her feel comfortable. Her insecurities may have been the reason why she put up with way more than she needed to, until her wedding day when she decided that she deserved more. The wedding day itself was a joyful occasion. People laughed and danced and Chris felt right at home surrounded by all these people. Everybody treated Catherine with kindness and this caused her to believe that she did not make a mistake by getting married to Chris. But she was in for a rude awakening. True to his nature, Chris decided to play a practical joke at the wedding. The groom smashing part of the cake into the wife's face, or painting a smidgen of it on her cheeks or nose is a popular cliché. However, Chris decided to take the tradition a little bit further. Her face was smacked into the cake by her husband, causing her clothing, hair, and makeup to be ruined. Chris was laughing uncontrollably, however, he was the only one. The guests noticed that Catherine was crying, and everybody came to the same consensus. Chris crossed the line. Her friends and family members ran after her as Catherine left the venue. The following morning, she initiated the divorce proceedings. She didn't want to marry him and couldn't endure him any longer. Her horror with Chris, however, did not end there. As we said before, Chris and Catherine married in a regime of separation of property. What that means is that in the event of divorce, both wife and husband retain possession over each of their assets. There was only one major asset that was shared by the two of them, the house. And Chris decided to take separation of property his own way in order to pull his last big prank, the greatest of all his life. While Catherine was staying at her parents' place, grieving on all the years she had been wasting with a man that was incapable of taking anything seriously, Chris split their house in half. Literally. The man worked in construction and somehow, he managed to get a grab on several machines. He spent the whole night working on a renovation for their home. By the time the sun rised, the house was sawed in two halves. He didn't stop there. He took one half of the house, supposedly the one he single-handedly considered his own, took it with him and dropped it at his parents' garden. We don't have any information about how they took that move from their son, but it isn't unreasonable to assume that, as much as they already knew about his humor and his character, even they were surprised by it. We don't know either about what Catherine did with her half of the house or about whether she found someone else after this event. But one thing is for certain. Even if she regretted all the years she had wasted with a man like Chris, she could be glad that she had the sense to end it in time. Things could have gotten really ugly if they had decided to have kids. What is known about Chris is that his reputation definitely took a damage from that incident. Some of his friends finally came to terms with the fact that his jokes not only were not funny at times, but also cruel. And a lot of people, even some of his closest ones, lost all respect for Chris. But we don't really know if Chris learned something from that experience. He might still be out there, just happy to laugh himself and still not caring whether other people find his jokes funny or not.